We just went live today. I think we're live now. Hello, God bless, and welcome. I'm Kevin Haggerty. You're watching the Godlogic Project. We discuss maintaining a Christian worldview in a post-Christian America. We have a great guest for you tonight. My friend Jessica, who I met on, I believe, in social media, heard some of her story, wanted to have her in the studio to kind of tell her story to you guys and really give you some hope. Before we get started, guys, I want to thank you for supporting the Godlogic Project. If you're shopping on Amazon anyway, go to godlogicproject.com, click on the Amazon logo, shop like you normally would, but Amazon is donating a couple of pennies to the Godlogic Project to help pay the bills here. And if you'd like to support the Godlogic Project on a regular basis, anchor.fm/Godlogic Project. You can donate $1, $5, or $10 a month to help meet the needs of the ministry here at the Godlogic Project. And if you guys need anything, if you simply just need prayer, you got somebody struggling with chemical addiction, or just need to talk to somebody, message me at godlogicproject@gmail.com. I'll reach out to you. If you want to be on the show, you got a story to tell, you could message me there as well. And if I can help you in any way, believe me, I have some resources, and I'll do my best to help you if I can. In the meantime, here's the intro music. Hello, God bless, and welcome. I'm Kevin Haggerty, and this is the Godlogic Project.
Shut up, Kevin.
That's right. I'm Kevin Haggerty. That's Mike Houston telling me to shut up like he does every week. Now, in studio today is author and entrepreneur, and I spelled that right in the advertisement, by the way, Jessie Marie Naioti. Naioti. And this is her book, My New York Life. And we're going to discuss this book and another book that she's written. But first, I want to introduce you to Jessie. Jess, say hello to the public and tell them a little bit about yourself.
Hey, I'm Jessie Naioti, and I don't even know where to start, but I just wrote My New York Life, and I'm going to be releasing Soldiers of Heaven next year.
Which is going to be a fiction book, is that correct?
It is going to be a fiction book.
Well, that'll be
relatively.
Yeah.
Battle of Good and Evil. You know.
So it's based on real life events every day we deal with.
It's based on events in real life. We just threw in a two-headed dragon.
Yeah.
So.
Well, those are always good to have. That fills seats. So you want to have, if I had a two-headed dragon, I got a Bigfoot on the shelf, but if I had a two-headed dragon, I'd have 1,000 subscribers already.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, if you guys would subscribe to the Godlogic Project, we're having trouble streaming live to YouTube. That's why we're on Facebook. If you go to youtube.com/Godlogic Project, subscribe. I need to get to 500 to 1,000. We're at 540 or something like that. Be a big help if you did that. So Jess, so tell me a little bit. I know a little bit about your background. Now, you had an event happen to you 11 years ago that was kind of life-changing for you. Where were you at before that event?
Yeah.
Give them kind of a what it was like, what happened, what it's like now type of story.
Sure. I grew up in a really good home. I had a great mom, Debbie Naioti, who's watching my little baby right now. She had left my dad pretty early. He was somewhat of a, drug dealer in the military, and almost got in some serious trouble in a different country. And when they didn't get in trouble, thank you. My mom said, well, that's great that we didn't get in trouble. Let's move on with our happy lives. And my dad wasn't ready to stop. And she was smart enough at that point in life, I think I was probably like 1 or less than that, to just say, well, I'm going to go back to New York now. And, they got a divorce. And she raised me. Great childhood. I always felt a little different. And, started to run into trouble like in teen years, was always seeking something outside of myself. And then right after high school graduation, I was in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I was in a bad car crash. Mm-hmm. Witnesses said that I flipped my car like 8 times and went out the sunroof and broke my neck and a lot of things like that. And, it was a pretty triumphant point in my life because I had already had like a couple hiccups, some serious hiccups, but this one was certainly the most traumatic. And the crazy thing is that every logical bone in my body should have been like, hey, there might be a problem. Let's do something different. But I couldn't stop. And like, I just didn't want to feel how I felt. And very soon I started to use again. And, it went from like kind of bad to like really bad, and I didn't see any hope. I was raised Catholic. I kind of gave up on God, really young and got really lost. That was probably the worst, is walking away from a relationship to a higher power. But the cool thing is like my mom, when I was growing up, she like would reiterate all the time that no matter what I thought about the Catholic Church or any like rebuttal I had, she would always just be like, well, maybe God's a flower, or, maybe maybe you can pray anyway. She always made it like he was still there, even if I wasn't. And that, had a huge part, I think, in saving me really early on. And, through the grace of God, and a lot of people, I think, prayed me into recovery rooms at the age of 24. And, my whole life changed. The first year it was like, I just want to live. And then it went to like, I just want my license back.
You want to thrive at some point.
Yeah. And then it was like, well, maybe I want to go to Thailand, or maybe I want to become a millionaire, or whatever I want to do today. And I know I told my mom earlier, because I still go through stuff, but I'm not scared today.
Yeah.
I have an unshakable faith today.
And that is, I think I got sober when I was 21. You got sober when you were 24. So in a lot of ways, that's horrible, but in a lot of ways, I used to be resentful that I had to go through puberty and addiction at the same time, but the truth is, it's a tremendous blessing. Yeah. So I had a year sober. I had a year sober, and I was either going to kind of go back to my life for crime in the neighborhood, or I'm going to do everything I always wanted to do. What I'm not going to do is hang around clubhouses and talk about the old days, right?
Yeah.
So I dropped out of high school at a young age. I ended up enrolling in and going to college, getting a degree, and I did stand-up comedy, which I never did sober before. And so we did that for a few years.
I can see it.
When I got married, and she kept getting herself pregnant, so it kept taking up more and more of my time. But the powerful part of what you said is that when we put the plug in the jug, or we put down the drugs and alcohol, we really do have the rest of our lives ahead of us, and we live one day at a time. But it is a tremendous potential that's there now that wasn't there my whole life. The first 21 years of my life, I was a screw up. So it really felt good to know that I want to live today. I want to do well today. I want to thrive today. I want to be my best. And it took me, 20 years to become a Christian after that. But it was the amount of hope that I had. I remember early in recovery like that was amazing. Now you had a serious accident. Were you in the hospital for a long time, or how did you end up in the rooms?
Yeah, and it was crazy because up until my car crash when I was 18, I was never really hurt at all. Like I said, I came from a really good upbringing. I lived in Fulton, New York. It was a small town. It was very safe. And I think I always wanted like more. And when I moved to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina after high school graduation, that's where the car crash happened. And it was Cinco de Mayo weekend. And I don't really remember anything. I got upset with a boyfriend that was a bar owner. And that was the last thing I remember, was getting angry, and I think emotional sobriety and emotional healing has a lot to do with my story too, because, I can use anger just like I used vodka, so now it's a totally different world. But I woke up, I think it was the end of May, to my mom's voice, and all this is in the book. But I knew when I heard my mom in South Carolina, she wasn't supposed to be there. So I actually kept my eyes closed because I didn't want to open them. And when I did open them, I was in a full full body cast. I mean,
Oh, my
I had
God.
one leg up in a sling, something on my neck because I had broken my C1, C2 vertebrae, and it was just a mess. And
So how long were you in the hospital?
I don't know, a few weeks, and then they airlifted me. Well, they brought me home. They brought me home to New York. I had a decision to make. I had to either come home to my mom and stay full to New York, and she was a nurse, or stay with my dad in Myrtle Beach, which it was
Kind of a party environment.
it was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the decision was made for me, and I was brought home, and I thank God, because my mom always was like, and I think, that was like what she did was show me God before I ever knew God. You know, she loved me anyway, and she also doesn't take any crap either.
And we need that. People like us need that, by the way.
Yeah, it's true.
So did you go right to meetings up there, or how did you?
Oh gosh, no. Yeah, I didn't even get sober. Like,
Wasn't enough. That wasn't the point where you quit drinking and drugging.
No.
Because that probably wasn't your fault. It wasn't the drinking and drugging. It was
no.
it was the sun in your eyes or something,
Right.
some other reason.
Oh yeah, I mean, and what's crazy, and it talks about this in a lot of recovery literature, especially being a woman in the program, is like we are so enabled. Like, I was pulled over so many times before my car crash, and it was always like, I'm being followed. I have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I don't know what the speed limit is.
Yeah.
And I would just be let go.
That never worked for me, by the way.
Yeah.
They didn't care what my problem was.
Yeah, I mean, I'd make up the craziest stuff, and I'm sure that I just, but that's my disease, like trying to stay alive, and that's why I have to remember, when I looked at people like my dad or new people that I work with, it's hard for me to remember, like, how cunning, baffling, and powerful this thing is.
Oh, yeah,
know? But no, I didn't. Before I could even get off my hospital bed, I think I was on my hospital bed for like a year. I don't know. I was in and out of surgeries for a long time. And again, I don't know. My mom and her family took care of me. But as soon as I could get up, I was like sneaking cigarettes and, sneaking a little sip of wine here. And, and it went downhill fast because that God-shaped hole in my heart was still there.
Was there another horrible incident, or were you just sick and tired of being sick and tired? Was a lot of little things, or
many horrible things? And I think, like, the most important thing is, like, we talked a little bit before the show, was like, it got to a point where, and this is the crazy thing about addiction, right? Is like, I have this maybe little hole in my heart for whatever reason. Maybe I'm born with it. Maybe it comes. Who cares? Is that it's there. And then I do things to try to fill that void, and then they make the hole bigger, and then I continue to use more, and then the hole gets bigger, and it's just this, this sick cycle. But I think really what happened for me was, I got to the point where I didn't even, after my car crash, I thought God had kept me alive for a reason. But then things happened due to addiction that made me think I was wrong. Maybe I'm not supposed to be here, and I've wasted the opportunity that I was given. And I was in a rehab, and I found out that I was pregnant. I was a month pregnant. And if that wasn't enough, and again, all this is in my book, My New York Life, but my grandma passed away. And my grandma was like my everything. And she had gotten sick. They were going to let me go home to take care of her. And when I saw my mom and dad pull in, I was like, they don't hang out. Why are they coming to the rehab right now? And I remember my dad just shaking his head and just knowing that she had died. And something happened. I can always remember her talking about, like, if somebody had died or something, she'd always say, like, they went over to get, like, superpowers or something like that to get help from the big dogs, And I feel like that's kind of what happened. I don't really understand life or death or addiction or recovery or any of that, but I do feel like something happened. Yeah,
and I think we talked a little bit about this off the air, but I think that we're not even capable of understanding those things. The greatest minds in the world, Aristotle, Socrates, the greatest theologians, John Edwards and everybody else, nobody could figure it out. But somehow I think Kevin the plumber is supposed to figure it out.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting close.
So,
I feel like right here, right now, we're getting close.
If you're given a peace that surpasses all understanding, don't try to understand it, right? Otherwise, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And we tend to make it harder on ourselves, I think, than it has to be. So you're when you quit drinking and drugging, how old were you then? You got in the accident at 24. How much longer?
18. I was in my car crash.
18 when you were in your car crash, and then so you lasted another 6 years before you quit.
I did, and
Congratulations.
It was horrible. Yeah, it was just horrible. But I did have a lot of experience, and it's like, who knows? I see people that, I mean, my dad. There's people that can spend their whole lives, getting sick and staying sick. I could die like that. I do feel like I've been kind of relieved from the obsession, and I do feel like I've recovered from a state of hopelessness.
Yeah.
So I don't, I feel pretty good today. But
and it is, you develop a kind of a gratitude. And to speaking of supernatural, sometimes I have the greatest peace because I know that the world is falling down around me, and I'm okay. And that, strangely enough, gives me a sense of peace. Paul wrote like 11 letters in the New Testament, 4 of them from prison. And they're the most hopeful letters, the most free letters I've ever, that he's written. And he was writing them from a Roman hole in the ground,
Yeah.
So we in all situations, so we quit drinking and drugging, or we come to Christ, whatever it is. Doesn't mean we're going to fart fairy dust the rest of our lives, but we develop the tools to deal with those things as we go. Even in the greatest of turmoils, there's a peace that goes along with A, being sober, and B, being in a relationship with God, whatever that is for you. For me, obviously, I'm a pastor. It's the God of the Bible. But for a lot of people, if it keeps them from drinking and drugging today, it's good, right? There's some good to it. So it is. So you're 24 years old. You went to rehab, and then you started going to meetings. Obviously, you went to meetings in rehab. We don't mention any particular programs, but so then what was it like being then 24? And this is upstate New York, which we might as well call Canada, right? You're from way upstate New York.
Yeah.
I'm from Staten Island, which is the very southern tip of New York.
Probably what everyone thinks where I'm from is.
Yeah. So you had moose in your yard and stuff like that?
Close.
Really?
I mean, yeah, some buffalo and stuff. But
so so what was it like up there being 24 years old and being in meetings? And were there other young people?
It sucked, but it didn't. I was so grateful to be alive. No, there wasn't women for like weeks. I remember the first time, because I had tried, like when I got in trouble in high school, I had gone to a rehab and tried to do the AA thing. Whoops. But then when I was 24, I remember when I got out, right? Grandma's dead. Now I'm pregnant, and I don't know how to live, and I need to figure it out like now. And I was introduced to this program in Oswego, New York. And I remember seeing this big guy that was like tattooed, and he looked like he just robbed a bank. And I was like, I think we're going to the same place. And we were. And he told me where I was looking for. And he said, men with men and women with women, you'll be all right. And it was the first time I felt like safe.
And were there women there that night?
No, it took me months in upstate New York to see, a woman. And I think that's what makes it so important for me to like stay. It says like to be responsible when anyone anywhere reaches out, right? Because, I think that's just like a universal law anyway, right? Like whether it's money or goodness or whatever, like in order, I got to give it away to keep it.
Well, we had, when it was 1989. Now, I'll tell you briefly. I was sent to the rooms when I was 16, or they're going to lock me up in like Boys Town, right? So I go to the rooms for a week. Ruined everything for me, by the way. So the next 5 years of drinking and drugging were horrific. I don't even remember the last 2 years. But when I'm 21 in 1989, there's no other young people for miles.
Right.
I mean, it was me and what seemed like 40 and 50-year-old old people, you know, and they literally babysat me. They took care of me.
Yeah.
They drove me around and fed me and they literally got me on my feet again, and they had no reason to do it, which was absolutely amazing. But the now, and it's a blessing and a curse, I guess, but there's young people groups now and young people conventions, and so the idea that the problem is there's a lot more young people dealing with addiction. The upside is they have other young people to do it with, which is awesome. So you're cleaned up, you're getting sober, you're working the program, and you decide to go into how did you get into the finance business? And tell us a little bit about what you do so people know what we're even talking about.
So this is like the fun part is, then I get sober and I get to do anything I want. And they told me that. Yeah. And I took full advantage of that, and I still do. Even in spite of like being a total human and having some super, super hard falls, I was able to, go back to school. First of all, I had a healthy, beautiful baby just about at a year, Benjamin, which means right hand of God. And, I got us a cute little townhouse out in the country in upstate New York, and that's where I raised him, nice. and I got clean and I grew up. And slowly but surely I continued to get the promises, that they tell me. And, a lot of it's internal stuff, the freedoms, that security, that truth and honesty, integrity, but then there's the fun stuff too, I was able to take my son when he was, I think, 5, and long time ago, I worked as an at-risk youth intervention specialist, and I'm a big, softie at heart, so that really I knew it wasn't going to be my career. I'd cry all the time. Yeah. But we did partner up with this Bandada's children's home in Sankleberry, Thailand, and I took Ben there. I remember praying one night after he was sleeping, and I'd always looked into flights, and for whatever reason, this night it happened to be very inexpensive, and we ended up going there and helping them out for a month, and it was so cool. I actually spoke in Pattaya for a recovery convention out there, and it was just so cool. That's
crazy. I have a friend that just went to Indonesia and now is in Thailand and trapped there because of the COVID. Couldn't go back to Indonesia. But she teaches English. Yeah. And I think she likes Thailand so much that she's got a job there. Yeah. I'm not even sure she's coming back.
It's really, it's a huge world out there. And I don't think, when 20 years ago, when I was a kid, it's like we didn't really have all these opportunities to see all
I've never
over
really
the
been
world.
anywhere.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I went to Canada, and I don't even remember it. I was drinking.
Same.
I'm pretty sure they remember
that one time. But, but now, I realized that I also, whether it's from my disability or whatever, because I did suffer a mild traumatic brain injury, that I have a hard time. And just sitting still for 8 hours is very difficult. And I'm still an addict and an alcoholic, so I have a hard time being told what to do. And I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit.
So you started your own business?
So I started my own business. I was doing events and marketing back home in upstate New York. I did, I went to college. I got a couple degrees. I went on to grad school. And that was all just really easy to me. But I took Benjamin on a cross-country road trip when I turned 30. And I was recruited by a pretty popular financial company. And I prayed and I meditated about this for months because I was like, financial services, that doesn't really seem like a spiritual field for me. But I loved my partner. I learned a lot, and I committed to it. And come to find out, one of my uncles was actually in financial services. And when you love people like I do, when you've almost died like I have, you kind of look at things like financial planning and life insurance and stuff like that a little different. That I started with them. I went through some separations in 2018 with them and my ex-fiance, and that in itself was like another spiritual awakening. Yeah. And I went independent, opened up my own independent agency, Naioti Financial, and you know, the past couple of years has been a big time healing. I've opened up. I've monetized the marketing company. That's Fair Market Works, and now I'm writing. So
writing books. And
yeah.
So I'm a lot of things, but financially responsible is not one of them. I owned a plumbing company for years, made a ton of money,
cool.
and I got nothing to show for it.
A lot of people do that.
So I never thought it would end, right? I never thought I'd get hurt.
Right.
So I was like, I know I got to do these things, but I don't have to do them in my 30s.
Yeah.
I'll do them in my 40s. So I didn't make it to my 40s without getting hurt. So then it was just a matter of keeping the lights on for a decade, you know?
Yeah.
So super important. The reason I say that is there's a peace of mind that comes along with having a little bit of a nest egg. Maybe not hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars, but we live in America. We tend to live paycheck to paycheck, right? Miss one or two paychecks, you're in big trouble. When I got hurt the last time, I had about 4 months worth of living money, and then that was it. So I could pay my bills for 3 or 4 months, and that would be it. And it wasn't enough. Well, now I don't have a ton of money because I'm a pastor, but I wish I had, if I had learned anything as a kid in school, I wish I spent less time learning trigonometry and more time learning balancing a checkbook or what it means to have a credit card. First time I had a credit card, it was a gold card, and I felt like I was stealing, and I wasn't okay with it, by the way. I didn't realize I would have to pay that back someday, you know. And they kept raising my limit and sending me new cards, and I never once. I think I was so spiritually unfit back in those days that it was inevitable that it would be taken away from me. And I think that I put my money, instead of drugs and alcohol, I put money in front of God back then. I wasn't saved yet, and that wasn't good enough, right? So He wanted me. So the importance for people to have just walking around money is a big deal, right? If you leave the house. My kids leave the house, I make sure they have money with them just in case, right? My dad always did that. But to be able to put aside some money slowly but surely, which I've now just begun to do, just for a rainy day, like they used to say, but just to have the peace of mind that comes along with it. If I run aground, I've got money. I've got money somewhere else. I can cover my own expenses. I don't have to borrow money. I don't have to fall behind anymore. Tremendous amount of peace of mind. And that's just in a very basic sense. But you do things like life insurance, 401ks. What do you do?
Well, I specialize in tax-diverse retirement, which is kind of boring, and the $1 Million Baby Program. I know, it's really like a whole different thing, but which is why I love my marketing company, because it's so much more fun. It's like fireworks every day. But, I specialize in tax diversification. So we have like a bookkeeping team, tax professionals. We do a very specific kind of tax kind of analysis for usually entrepreneurs, small businesses.
Like setting up Roth IRAs and stuff like that?
It's like all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really just tearing apart every sort of like tax code and tax break and where can we put things and make it more tax sexy, money sexy.
So Donald Trump was one of your clients. Is that true?
I don't know.
Didn't he just get in trouble for only paying $750 in tax?
So much more though.
Yeah, he paid him. He prepaid him the years before. I heard.
Yeah, he's. I know everybody wants to pick on him, but I mean he's our president.
So and he didn't break the law, but that's not tonight's subject.
I know.
If you make the
I
laws,
see your cup over there. I like it.
If you make the laws and then they obey the laws, that's a win, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't like it, change the laws.
Yeah.
So you help people get that kind of financial security that then opens them up. If you don't have that, you don't have spiritual peace, right?
Yeah.
So until you have financial peace, good luck ever trying to find spiritual peace outside of drugs and alcohol or pornography or addictions of any kind, right? Sex or money or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That God-shaped hole you were talking about, not only does the hole get bigger, it rots when you put something else in there. Only God fits in there, you know?
Yeah.
And I've tried everything. And the idea that I used to work and save and make money to buy things to make myself happy. Turns out the whole time I could have just been happy. I didn't have to break my back and end up with nothing. I could have been happy the whole time, but we're not taught that when we're kids, right?
Right.
We're taught, especially Irish Catholic immigrants.
Right.
You get out, you work, you pick up a shovel as soon as you can pick up a shovel and you start making money, and that you die that way. I would have loved to have some kind of financial guidance for kids in the school system or otherwise, back then because I had no clue. I was in my 20s before I had no clue how important having a credit card or good credit was, and so those types of things. I'm not making excuses, but if I had them, would I not have had the part of the peace I have now is that I'm not living hand to mouth every week, So it is a tremendous opportunity for people to have some spiritual wellness from their financial wellness,
Well, and that is really where a lot of, the life insurance. I mean, knowing from 18 years old that I could die was very effective in inspiring my financial industry kind of decision. But the $1 Million Baby Program is actually kind of like a niche product.
What is it exactly?
It's kind of what you're talking about. I mean, I had partnered with a lot of the local OBGYN and hospitals back home, school districts. I'll go into the schools, even from real young, just to kind of start with them and start learning, about where things come from. And there's a lot of factors that play into it, that boils it even down to not just financial, but resourcefulness, right? Because this is kind of an environmental thing as much as it is an economic thing. But, going in, teaching kids about money, what it is, what it means to save, what we should be doing with our money. My son, I think he was probably 6 when I didn't have any money to buy a toy or whatever. I was telling him I didn't. And he was like, just pull the card thing out. Yeah. And I was like, wait a minute. You don't think that that's a magical thing that buys things, do you? And, but same also when I was 18 on my hospital bed, they were giving me credit cards and I used them, and it took me getting sober till I had to make those financial amends and actually pay all that back. But now I feel really passionate about teaching children, teaching parents, being a child and a mom. It's what if I died right now? Do I have a will and something on paper that tells the rest of the world what to do with my kids and what goes where? And teaching Benny, anytime he earns his chore money or anything like that, he has to give a third away. He saves a third and he gets to spend a third. Yeah, and that's just what it is, So, and he hates me for it, but.
Well, we have a question from Simon, who is the host of the Who I Became podcast, and I am his guest tomorrow night.
Yay.
I think we recorded it a couple months ago, but I don't remember what we talked about, but it should be amazing.
Cool.
But
awesome.
Simon's asking, what's the biggest thing you learned, Jess, during your journey? So if we start at 24 years old to, what are you, 29 now?
I just turned 35.
So what were some of the key, what was the most powerful, the most helpful tool you picked up? What was the most important thing you learned in that time, do you think? That's a big question. It's hard to answer.
Yeah. Well, I guess in the beginning it was right, learning to become a disciplined person. It was learning how to keep a schedule and do my daily activities, and I keep my rehab schedule now. I don't sleep a lot, but I still get up at 4 or 5. I pray, and then I work like a machine all day, and I usually go to bed around 11 or 12, and I get up every 2 hours for the baby. But once I have that basic foundation of being able to take care of myself, eating properly, sleeping properly, praying and meditating, then I think it's 110% throwing myself into God and the unlimitless possibilities, because I feel we're all born with something kind of going back to the financial stuff. That's just that's just the get me started thing. Once we start adding, and I think that Maslow's hierarchy is we keep laying down the foundation, and it's when I got sober, they told me if I did, I'd be able to do anything.
Yeah, me too.
And I wanted to sign that contract. Count me in. I'm ready to go. And and I we did before this, I pray and meditate and just try to stay aligned, because I know when I don't do that and I'm serving myself, things don't go very
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
right? But when I'm really trying to serve some sort of power greater than me, I mean, it's just amazing.
So the first book, and the for me it was acting like a normal person, which I had never done before I quit drinking, right? So I could at best mimic what normal people do,
Yeah.
but I never felt normal. I never felt like everybody else. I was alone in a crowd all the time. So the idea of, I tell folks, this is the easiest version of Kevin I've ever had to be, you know, because there's, you know me 5 minutes, you know me. There's not much underneath, you know, this is it now. So there was a lot of bells and whistles my whole life, a lot of sizzle, not a lot of steak, you know. So the idea that that I could move and function like everybody else and have things like compassion and set aside things like greed. I made a god of everything but God for most of my life. I was 42 when I got saved, right? So, or 43 maybe. And if I can tell you, the 4 horsemen of my apocalypse is going to be drugs, alcohol, money, and women, because one way or another, that was my god in a season in my life, right? Trying to draw some self-worth or happiness from the wrong places. So the idea of living like we do now and serving God and walking in that first John light, trying to just do the next right thing the next right way, sounds pretty simple to people, but for people that I work with every day, it's a big deal if you don't hurt somebody today. It's a big deal if you help somebody today, right? It's a big deal if you are grateful, because mostly people that come out of addiction are self-centered to the extreme, the literature tells us, right? So page 62 of our literature is a verbal tongue lashing about self-centeredness. Page 63 is the third step prayer, which says, relieve me of the bondage of self. Self is slavery, right? It's if we focus on ourselves, there's no way we can be pleasing or serving God at the same time. And if we do, though, if we abide in the vine, we bear fruit. And all we have to do is abide in the vine. It's really a perfectly natural system that we, in our infinite lack of wisdom, screw it up. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I think we're so blessed because I know for me, I mean, the things, you know, having the program that I've had to kind of teach me about life and myself and a relationship with God and others, it's so important because, you know, I look around today and I don't even know, you know, I don't even know if people need to be, quote unquote, addicted to any sort of substance or behavior in order to be like caught up in the rapture of self. Yeah. I mean, I think like today, like technology is kind of putting some hot items in our path to be aware of. You know, there's a lot of things going on that, you know, I think that we need to be conscious of too.
So we're going to open up the phone lines, and I'll put the phone number up, and we'll begin to we'll unpack a little bit about what's in this book and even what's in the next book.
Yes.
Your marketing company helps folks with small businesses, medium sized. What exactly do you do?
I love my marketing company. I have a team from all over the world. You want to talk about what God does for us? I mean, I just wake up, man, and I don't know how this happens, but I've got a team from all over the world. We help everyone. We help huge corporations. I do have a heart for small businesses just because I am a small business owner. Actually, on our website, fairmarketworks.com, I think we have like a start a business like option, you know, to really make like an affordable financed way for businesses to start their business, just because I am so like I think that that's what America was based on. But yeah, okay, thanks. But yeah, we've done some huge things. We've got videography, all the hot things that are new, you know, content writing and social media.
Social media, influencing, stuff like that. So this has
attention.
this is, by the way, what I'm terrible at. Because I'm old and boring, but this is what it takes to do things like drive an online ministry or an online, you know, start a podcast or YouTube channel. And there's a lot more that goes into it than I thought of a year and a half ago when I started this. So it is, and it is the way we're going to do things. Believe it or not, I mean, me personally, I don't even have cable. I haven't had cable in years because
Same.
everything I watch is on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, I might watch Netflix with the kids or Amazon with the kids, but if it's me, I'm trying to learn something. I'm trying to and grow a little bit. So it's everything I do is on that $12 for YouTube Premium, the best money I spend every month because I don't have to put up with the stupid ads. But the so we showed the website, by the way, and this is the website, guys. It is fairmarketworks.com.
Such a great website.
And and they can contact you there with any questions, right? They have an opportunity to contact you there. All your social media links are on there, it looks like.
Yeah, and I have to just mention that I said that it's such a great website just because I'm so grateful that my web developer actually published it probably 2.5 hours ago, because I've been telling him for days. We actually just revamped the entire site. We just added on several people to our team. Upward Graphics up back home in upstate New York. They do design and print hoodies and merchandise and all sorts of funky things like that. Like I said, we've got videography from my buddy Dimitri in Greece, and we've just got so many new things. So I'm really grateful, and they did a really good job creating the website. And like you said, I heard you say metadata earlier.
Yeah.
And I knew. I was like, we're connected, because I don't know too many people that can talk about metadata. But yeah, I actually work for one of the leading search engines. I'm a marketing specialist. That's my actual job.
So I'm just now scraping the surface of SEO, in a self-taught, and it's not easy. And it is brutal. And I have, if I ever tell you, by the way, that I have attention, if I ever apply for a job and I say I have attention for detail and I can multitask, I can't do either of those things. I can do one thing at a time, and I'm probably not going to do that very well. So so to be sitting in front of a computer with my ADHD, sitting in front of a computer trying to figure this stuff out, I can think of 1,000 things I'd rather do.
Sure.
We talked about off the air. I don't even watch my old episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't sit down and watch my own show.
Yeah.
And I should be, because I should be cutting them down, editing them into smaller segments and stuff. But I can't stand it. It just there's 1,000 things I'd want to do besides listen to myself for another hour. You know.
I know.
So so we got the phone lines open, and it gets a little awkward. So I am the engineer. So the folks know out there in TV land, I'm the engineer, I'm the host, I'm the producer, and I'm the director, and I have the Starship Enterprise set up here, trying to run everything. So sometimes when people do call in, it gets a little awkward. I apologize in advance, but we'll open the phone lines, and we're going to talk. We may have to be interrupted if the phone rings, because I don't have somebody in the next studio answering the phones for me. I'll answer it right here while we're talking.
Fine.
So if you want to call in, you have questions, you want to make a comment even, we're going to open the phone lines up. The phone number is 727-600-5837. And so the My New York Life is not a company, but it is your life in New York, correct?
Yeah.
And it is autobiography?
Kind of, yeah. It is a lot of the education that I've learned about financial services, a lot of my experiences, and it's my life story.
So we in that they can get some kind of people that are 24-year-olds and just trying to get their lives together. It seems insurmountable. But here I am sitting in the studio. You're in Tampa Bay, Florida, on a podcast talking about your journey, right? So, and there's nothing special about us, right? We are schmucks on the bus, but we are able to day in and day out create something, and they can too. And that's where I hope when we talk to people and we try to help people, that they develop a sense of hope from the conversations we have, and that we have that they're able to one day start this journey themselves, and realize that. And I'll go a little gospel on you, but one of the main tenets of the gospel is personal responsibility, right? So it is your relationship with your Creator, not your family's relationship with your Creator, not your denomination or your church's relationship with your Creator, but you, one-on-one with the Creator of heaven and earth. There is personal responsibility involved, and I'm afraid we've personal responsibility has been baked out of the recipe.
Yeah.
People are... somebody robs a bank, all we want to know is what conditions existed that made him rob the bank. Well, he shouldn't. Right. Whatever conditions existed, you shouldn't have robbed the bank because it's stealing, right? So we need to take responsibility for this journey we're on, and it doesn't mean we need to be, we need $1 million to start. When I started this podcast, I didn't even know how to use a computer. My kids had to help me with my smartphone 2 years ago, you know. So but it is a matter of buckling down, doing a little bit every day, getting a little better every day, right? And that's just like the recovery process.
Yeah, I'm learning this week. I've been trying to learn Oman and Punjab language. And in fact, I think one of my new clients speaks these languages. That's actually her business. And it's crazy, like you say that, and I'm like, yeah, it's like we get whatever life we want. Yeah. If I want to end up in jail, I know how to do it. You know what I mean?
I have a background in that.
I know. But if I want to end up, you know, I have some pretty clear-cut goals today. And usually I don't get too involved in the background, you know, my roots. But I was so happy when you contacted me, because this is, and I think it's important people know, you know, I didn't just like go through all this and be like, wow, I think I want to get sober and become a millionaire. No, man, it's me waking up at 4 o'clock every day. It's praying. It's reaching out to other people. It's sweaty runs 3 times a day. It's eating right and working hard. Yeah.
I had a guy at 7-Eleven. I was getting coffee, and I was in my Kevin Haggerty plumbing shirt with the Kevin Haggerty plumbing truck at the gas pump or whatever. And I had a kid online at the 7-Eleven say, how is that guy to work for? And I said, he's awesome to work for. It's me. Oh. And he goes, I was like in my 30s, late 30s. And he goes, you own your own plumbing company? I said, yeah. He goes, man, you're lucky. And I'm thinking to myself, luck had no, I dug miles of ditches and passed incredibly hard tests and learned a ton in 8 years or 9 years of apprenticeship and journeyman to get to this point. Luck had nothing to do with it, but the mentality is if you own a big plumbing company in your 30s, you're lucky. I mean, it's not like I walked out of the house and there was a plumbing truck and a license in my driveway. It was quite a journey, you know?
It's really not even fun. I mean, yeah, most of the time it's awesome, and I do have that passion and that discernment for it, but it's hard work. Like, most of the time I want to, like, you know, it's hard.
And you want to have, I would recommend that you have balance in your life. So you don't want to be all work or all play or all anything, except that when the kids are sick, I was more dad, right? And when my bank account is sick, I'm more plumber. And when I'm sick, I'm more recovery. Yeah. Does that make sense? But at the end of the day, you always want to get back to some kind, you want to enjoy the journey. So the guys I deal with in recovery now, and either spiritual or chemical recovery now, I tell them, don't forget to enjoy this. You know, this is a blessing every day, and enjoy that, you know. Cops pull you over now, you got nothing to hide for the first time in your life. There's a peace that goes along with that, you know. Yeah. So the next book then is going to be called
Soldiers of Heaven.
Soldiers of Heaven, and give us a little preview, if you would. And the first book is available on Amazon, or how do they get that?
Amazon and Facebook, and we do have a website, mynewyorklife.biz, and then Soldiers of Heaven also, same thing. We have a Facebook and a website, soldiersofheaven.org.
I'll put all these links, by the way, in the description down and below, so they'll be able to look all this stuff up themselves. So the links will be there for them to look at. Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about the new book, which is kind of fiction, but based on your experience, or exactly what is it? Soldiers of Heaven.
Soldiers of Heaven.
So we need some of those, by the way.
It's so true. Well, it's crazy because, you know, growing up, you know, my mom, I mean, she was just, you know, wonderful. You know, she was loved. She taught me hard work. She's never been late, I don't think, to work or ever missed a day. Like, she's a really good girl. My dad, on the other hand, you know, was always like inventing things and like traveling around the world. And thank God, I think I got the best of both of worlds put in me. But, you know, when I was growing up, since I was a kid, because I can remember spending my chore money on buying him screenplay writing books. Oh, yeah. And he'd always talk about this story. You know, he wanted to get this story out there about these people that died, that when they died, they met with God, and God gave them the option to return to the world with superpowers and to fight the demons that took their life. And I mean, this was just the constant in his life, you know, besides addiction. Yeah. Addiction did end up taking his life in 2016. that sucked, you know, but I knew, and I had this, as much as he had written of the screenplay. So what I had done ever since 2016 is I've rewritten it in my own words from what I knew who my dad was.
But still has his flavor or vision
Oh,
in
yeah. And you can't really, I know my mom, I mean, all of us, when we read it after he died, we're like, whoa, that took a turn. Because it's like Constantine and Marvel superheroes, borderline, like really pushing the R-rated, you know.
Yeah.
And the ending, I mean, is you never seen anything like it. I have found, well, let me just back it up. There's all sorts of different situations. So, you know, there's a few different characters, and all of them are going through a lot of the things that we all go through. And this is where it's like, you know, I don't really have to use like drugs or alcohol to be a complete screw up, right? There's plenty of, I mean, in sobriety, I've made
plenty of mistakes in sobriety.
So I think because there is still like such a social stigma associated, like there's so many people that are probably like, well, you know, good thing I don't have that problem. And it's like, all right. But, you know, I think that this story really embraces a lot of it. You know, it's going to talk about drugs. It's going to talk about that middle income, you know, average person and the kind of horrors that they experience. It's going to talk about international, you know, drug cartels, and it's going to talk about hurting children, and it's going to talk about all the stuff that we hear on the news that we're uncomfortable with, but we're all listening because we all watch it on the news, and it hopefully is going to tie some sort of solution to it and really show the spiritual warfare behind it. It's a very, very spiritual, with a biblical undertones book, which was completely my dad's thing because he
was both. You were telling me he was
big into the Bible.
Yeah. So I happen to be big into the Bible.
So tell me.
So the book comes out. When do we expect the book to come out?
So my assistant, Nika, has been really pressing it, and thank God we just found a publisher. So we actually are going to be, it was supposed to be released on December 13th, which when my dad's father died when he was 33. But they're taking the reins of it, so it might not be released for another 6 to 8 months. They're actually working with like Netflix, and they've got a lot of things in line for this, which is exactly what I wanted. And again, like nothing that I did. I just woke up and brushed my teeth and prayed, and now all these wonderful things are happening. But yeah, I mean, we've got the website, we've got the Facebook page, and you know, hopefully that this story can really give some hope to some people and shine some light on some issues.
So we'll wrap it up here, but that's awesome. That whole, not just the story, but how the story came about. Yeah. That's amazing. So and so personable. So it's safe to say that this time next year I'll know a famous person, right?
Let's see.
Well, and then you'll be like, "Oh, hi, Kenny," and I'll be like, "It's Kevin." Whatever. I get my coffee. We'll look forward to that. Can folks find you on Facebook and social media?
Oh,
I know we got a YouTube channel called The Traveling Mommy.
Traveling Mommy, yeah.
So, and I'll show that. Let's show that.
I do. I mean, I've taken Ben all over the world, so it's not just Thailand. And I love the world. I feel like we're missing God's book if we only stay in one place. This is like the book God wrote.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's pretty fun, but yeah. And I've got my podcast, hashtag Be Well, Be Wealthy. That's also my Instagram. And
Be Well, Be Wealthy is your hashtag, and it's your name on Instagram, correct?
Yeah.
And on Facebook, is it the same?
Jessie Naioti. That's me on Facebook.
Oh wait, that's me on Facebook.
That's you on Facebook.
So, and that'll all be in. We'll put all these links in the comments section. This is going to be, so you know, this will be on Facebook, and then it'll also be on YouTube. I'll upload it to YouTube channel, my YouTube channel. I'll send you a copy of it. Do whatever you like with it. And then, but it'll also be on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and like 4 or 5 other. I can't keep track of all of them, but there's 4 or 5 other platforms that it gets uploaded to. So this information will be available for everybody. I want to thank you, by the way, just for coming on the show. I know turns out we don't live too far away from each other, which is awesome.
Super awesome.
We didn't talk about cryptocurrency, which we'll have to have some private conversations because I've been studying on that as well.
Yes.
I have I love conspiracy theories, and I really want to believe them because they're so fun. But I think my conspiracy theory is the dollar has already collapsed, and they're hiding it behind COVID. And so I'm about to become a crypto millionaire.
Look at people are clapping. And I do want to just say, if any of my followers on Facebook haven't already, please subscribe to the Godlogic Project on YouTube now.
Thank you.
Please go and subscribe to the Godlogic Project and share it. There's a lot of wonderful topics that are not talked about enough.
Yeah, there's some tough. Not every episode is family friendly. There's some tough topics that we talk about on there, but they need to be spoken about. Sex trafficking, child pedophilia. I'll even talk about politics. I lose more subscribers when I talk about politics than anything.
But you came the right ones.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. No, I'm not.
Kidding, not kidding. So well, let me do this. I'm gonna have you send us off here in a minute with your final thoughts. But I want to thank you guys for supporting the Godlogic Project. As always, subscribe, ring the alert bell. If you see our stuff on social media, subscribe. Please share it and raise awareness of this little ministry we're running here, this little project. If you're shopping on Amazon anyway, go to godlogicproject.com, click on the Amazon logo. They'll think I sent you there and send me like 2% or 4% of your purchase. It's an extra step, but it's free money for the Godlogic Project. Help pay the bills for all the studio and electronics and everything like that. If there's anything I can do for you guys, again, message me, godlogicproject.com. You simply just need prayer. But if you or a family member are struggling with, particularly with chemical addiction, in Florida particularly, I have a lot of resources in the Tampa Bay area, but I may have some outside the state as well. I get phone calls from Indiana and Massachusetts, and if there's a way for me to help you, I'll do it. That's why we do the Godlogic Project in the first place. And I really do appreciate your support, as always. It's just been a great learning experience, and it's been great to have you guys commenting and calling in and being part of the process as well. Jess, if you ran into a 24-year-old that just quit drinking and drugging, and you wanted to give her some kind of hope, what do you think you would say in a minute or two if you're on an elevator with her? We want her to see in your story and you got an energetic, bubbly personality, and that's attractive, and people want what you have, right? So if she asked you, why are you so happy, what would you tell her?
Well, I'd probably say I got out of my own way. And it really does kind of get me choked up a little bit because I've lost so many, friends and newcomers, and I know that there are a lot of them still watching. But I think it's important to really, I find strength in the power of selflessness. Yeah. Like I said, I take care of myself just a little bit each day so that I can take care of the higher purpose here. And when I really focus my life around that, my life gets a lot better. And then I get these freedoms that I never had. But the first thing I had to do is get clean and sober and take care of myself. And then, sky's the limit. Now I could be like, I could be homeless. I could stay uneducated. I don't have to work, but I could do anything. I can do whatever I want today, So I think that that's important, that they understand they get the freedom back through God. Yeah. Enjoy this journey. And God left the journey in it for us for a reason, and I think it's to enjoy it, and to celebrate Him and celebrate the gifts that we have in our lives. Every day. It's so awesome. All right, guys, that's our show for tonight. If no one told you they love you today, God loves you, so do we. Receive that. Be blessed, and we'll speak soon. Thank you. Thank you for supporting the Godlogic Project, and if no one's told you they love you today, God loves you, so do I. Receive that. Be blessed. We'll speak soon. This has been a Rev Kev production. Your mileage may vary.
Shut up, Kevin.